thank you very much, and great to be back at Drucker, and it's a marvelous time to spend time in Vienna. You know, we've spoken a lot this morning about complexity, and of course many of us speaking about complexity are theorists, and it's quite relatively easy to talk about how complicated complexity is because we just have to write about it. We don't actually have to do any of it. And so the final session today is really dedicated to those people who do complexity rather than those people who write about complexity. And the way that we'd like to run the panel is it's going to be in 3 segments. First of all, we're going to listen and talk to a couple of CEOs who are managing some of the world's most complex companies. And then we're going to widen it to talk and to add another 2 people who are actually managing large research groups or managing complicated teams around the world. And finally, I'm going to open it up to everybody, including our Gen Ys, who hi. Aww. And I hear that you are great on Twitter, but quiet in the room. So we want to hear you in the room as well as hearing you on Twitter. Great group, actually. I was judging some of their essays, and it's just incredible what you guys are saying, so it's nice to have you here. Okay, so let me start off by introducing our two CEOs. Rick Gonings, who's the CEO of Tupperware brand, one of the world's largest direct sales corporations, and also Chandra, who is the CEO of Tata Consulting Services, one of the world's largest IT companies. So between them, they employ, I don't know, more than 500,000 people. It's probably more than that, isn't it? Rick, how many do you employ?
We have 3 million.
3 million, so there you are. And Chandra's only got 300,000. You must feel terrible already. 300,000 more. How simple is that? Okay, so may I ask them to come up, and we'll start the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to, I don't really want to say anything about complexity because I think the whole of the conversations this morning have been incredibly insightful and interesting. I think we've all got a pretty clear idea, if we hadn't already, about how complexity is influencing the world right now and some of the challenges and opportunity it presents. So I just want to really go straight in and ask Rick and then Chandra an opening question, which is, you know, we've talked a lot today about complexity, but you're living it on a day-to-day basis. What is it, what are the aspects of this complex world that really you're most aware of here and now? Rick?
Probably, I was thinking about earlier today as I was listening to these excellent presentations this morning, and I saw a movie when I was young with Ray Milland, who's Welsh, and it was the man with X-ray vision. It was during the latter years of his life, and he would take drops, and therefore he could initially see through some things like paper. Took more drops, he could see through clothes. Got interesting. Took more drops, he could see through walls. And then as he took them more, he was a scientist, the role he was playing, he could see down to the molecular structure, which meant he couldn't see anything anymore. And he had to be led around like someone who was blind. That's how we kind of look at it today, that the complexity's always been around us. If you were raised in a little village, you may not have seen it, but it was around. And now it's coming at us in many different ways. As a public company, our biggest challenge is to manage it on all levels. That's everything we talked about this morning. I kept going through sorting, sifting, how do we manage that? And it starts off with, who are your shareholders? And if we have a shareholder here, if it's in New York City, they're usually short-term, they're a hedge fund. Sometimes they're in and out of your stock in 60 days. We tend to try to get more shareholders in Europe who actually do invest and stay. It leads down to the products we sell. If I took you to India, our typical product in India, we have 200,000 women there is about 10 US. Here in Austria, we're a very big organization here. Our best-selling products are 140 euro. So we have to change our products. We have to change our selling method. If it is the country, it's a Tupperware party like you used to think about. But if it's Paris, it's girls' night out. She's a busy working woman. They drink alcohol. They talk about us. And she doesn't want to cook, but she loves to entertain. So we've had to change our business on so many different levels to deal with all of these markets.
That's so fascinating. And those of you who were here last year, hands up everybody who was here. Oh, actually not that many of us. Well, do come again, by the way, because it's just a brilliant thing, those of you who are first-timers. But if you were here last year, you'll remember Paul Polman, CEO of Unilever, and he talked a lot about managing stakeholders, and he talked a lot about the challenges of short-termism. So that comes as no surprise, Rick, that should be something that's also big on your agenda. Chandra, what do you see? One of the interesting things I think that I've noticed about you is that you, and I'm sure, Rick, you do the same. I mean, you spend a lot of time running around the world talking to customers and then trying to assimilate that and then describing that to your own people. I mean, what is it that you're telling them about complexity in the world right now?
I think the way to look at the world is that it's complex in many dimensions. First of all, it's very connected, totally connected today. If you look at our business, we are an IT consulting firm with presence in about 45 countries with about 280,000 professionals. I'll come to that in a minute. But the complexity has dimensions in terms of globality. Today, so many businesses are global, and they are in every market. Everyone is searching for growth in these markets. But at the same time, the economy in these markets is vastly different. It's they're connected, but it's very different. And some markets are doing well, some markets are not doing well, and the problems that you face in each of these markets is very different. The third dimension is the society. The social issues in some of these markets are very profound today. Each market is again facing different kind of social issues, some political issues, some social issues. So businesses have to cope with this geographic diversity while handling the economic diversity as well as the social diversity. On top of that, you have the people dimension. Today we are having the whole concept of, we never used to talk about people like the way we talk today, about the Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, and so on and so forth. The best example I give it to a banking, when I talk to a banking professionals or banking company chairmen, if you run a retail bank, it's very different today, the kind of problem they face. I grew up watching my father, waiting for the postman every morning, 9 o'clock. As soon as the postman arrives, he'll open the envelopes. There will be a dividend warrant or an interest warrant or something. He has to fill the challan, and he'll walk to the bank, deposit it, have a coffee with the branch manager. It was very important to him. It was part of his social fabric, absolutely. And you know, for him to go to that bank twice or thrice a week and go to the post office to post it is very important. It is part of his ecosystem. Me, never went to a branch in the last 15, 20 years, 25 years. I've never been to a branch. And we do everything online, and everything is taken care. And probably most of the time in the wallet, you have very little currency notes. You have only plastic, and and most of the things are done online. My son is watching me going to online and then do all these transactions. He's asking, why are you going to this bank.com? Your telephone bill is in the cloud, your banking account is in the cloud. Why they can't simply settle? Why do you have to go to a bank site and automatically do all these things? They should automatically settle. All the information is in the cloud. So in a manner of speaking, the most important dimension is the technology dimension. That's what I see. I think you said it, but I would like to paraphrase it. Today, it's almost like if I decide to just press on the floor, go up about 100 feet, and then just look down the world, you can pretty much see everything. And also you can almost say that I want all my employees, light up the employees, then you can see all these 280,000 people going around. Pretty much, it's like a real-time view of anything and everything that you want to see. And that's the additional complexity. So I think it's complex in many, many dimensions, but there are solutions. And the whole idea is complexity simplification.
Yeah.
Because all of us know, whether it is a strategy, I think Roger is here and you are here, it has to be simple. Businesses have to grow. The thinking has to be very simple. Our structures have to be simple. Your products have to be simple. Your services have to be simple. You need to be able to say anything in 1 minute. Otherwise, you cannot execute. So the whole game is, how do you simplify things? And again, the same technology, which makes a lot of things complex, is allowing you to make things very simple. That's what I see.
So I was going to ask you about reimagining the future, but before I do that, can I just ask both of you a question that's, I think, come up pretty strongly today? When people talk about complex systems, and they talk about something, Chandra, you've talked about, which is, many to many, if it's all peer group based in organizations, and if many communities can talk to each other, what then is the role of a leader? Do organizations need leaders? And if they do, what is it that you do in this, organizations that are incredibly connected, that's different than somebody would have done 10 years ago? How do you manage those 3 million people, and do you manage them at all? What does it mean to be a leader?
How you organize them, there's still a need for that. It's interesting, I sometimes show like a thermometer of the relationship value of it, and on the bottom is Twitter, because it's totally without any real relationship, and then it goes up to email, and then texting, and then from that, a letter. And the next, what if you got somebody that hand wrote a letter to you? And then actually their voice, a telephone, and then face-to-face contact. My wife sometimes talks about it. All this social media has become anti-social media. There is such a need and want for people to want to connect on a personal level. So I'll tell you what we've learned how to do. Firstly, the best way we organize 3 million people is as independent contractors, so I don't have the complexity of dealing with all of these governments and the social costs. And we treat her like an entrepreneur. We show her how to do it. And we've really had 3 things we've tried to do. And Chandra, I've just got to say amen to what you said. Simplification, simplification. I'll do at some retreats. I will have 10 people in a room on one side of the table, and I will just, the old story of, here, repeat this in someone's ear, pass it down. And we'll do a simple little thing. Ferraris are fast, okay? 10 people, all speak the same mother tongue. Rarely do I get that after 10. Then I move the other side of the table and I give them 2 phrases. Paris is perfect. Rome is romantic. In more than 100 retreats, never got it right. It seemed like simple things, but it's not. So what we try to do is, we have 3 pieces of our business, and I'll expand later on it. Number 1, the value. Every organization at its roots is only a collection of people. So we say, number 1, it's people. And by the way, that's dead on Drucker. It gets down to talk customer, but it's people at it. So we focus our resources, number 1, on creating a culture that empowers people. We try to recruit the best, develop them, empower them, and then, boom, they're engaged. And one of the glues that really holds them together is purpose. People will work for money, they will die for a cause. And so we have this purpose all over the world, and it may sound tinny because you don't know us, but it's changing lives. And and particularly focusing on women's changing lives. Second major thing we do is, okay, if we're going to do it, give her a business model that she can taste success with. So our second piece is, well, notice the bulk of all new restaurants fail within 5 years. When's the last time you saw a McDonald's fail? Because it's a strong business model. It does well in France when there were protests against McDonald's. It does well in India where half the population is vegetarian. It's a business model that works. So we created a replicatable business model, and we adapt and adopt the products, the selling method, et cetera. Third thing that we very much press on with our people is that every successful business model works until it doesn't. The need for constant renewal, and we teach them that the wolf's at the door. It may be further out in the yard, but it's somewhere outside that door. And what we then try to do, and maybe we can get it in Q&A, is we give them a toolkit for how they can distill down complexity, whether they live in Mumbai or Montreal. So then they can taste success. So it's this distillation down, simplicity, 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 making something I can understand out of a lot that I can't understand.
And Chandra, so for you, Rick, leadership is about, the values and purpose, the replicable business model, and connecting and constant renewal. And actually what's interesting about your business is those 3 million people are connected, but they're basically working as independent providers, aren't they? And Chandra, the challenge that you have is that those 300,000 people or so are having to work together across the world, aren't they, to build the sort of products that you want to deliver. So how have you been able to think about complexity, and what have you done to try and make that work as a leader?
I think for the profile of the people we have, all these people are predominantly engineers. Out of the 280,000 people, 240,000 of them are engineers, remaining 40,000 people are graduates in some discipline, science or commerce or something. So we have a pretty intellectual workforce, and the positive side of that is they all are energetic. They all want to be high achievers. They want to contribute. They bring in a lot of energy, and they're young. We have a lot of people who are Gen Y. I have more than 100,000 people, 150,000 people at below 30 years of age. So it's a very large pool of this generation. And leadership, to me, in this dimension, is all about getting this energy unleashed. So I came up with a slogan called, and it's now a common thing in the company, realize your potential. Basically, I felt that the company has a huge potential, and the only way we can achieve it is if we can convert ourselves to be a platform for all these people to realize their dreams. So we came up with this about 3 or 4 years ago, and so that has become a mantra, if you will. So everything that we do is all about enabling these people. And when we say we are going to enable these people, we have got to give a technology platform, because these people are distributed, they are working in so many different communities, okay? Because they may be belonging to a city, they may belong to a project, they may work for a client. In multiple different ways you can segment them. They will belong to one community or other, multiple communities at any point in time. So we came up with an internal platform called Nomi. Nomi is a platform which basically is a social media platform, which has a lot of different tools. You have the features of every other social media platform, but it's rich in our context, because we have brought in a lot of different things which makes it rich in the context in which we operate. And I have more than 120,000 people on the platform today, and these people belong to 3,000 communities, and they talk. So it's all about the many-to-many I talked about. They have a point of view on everything. When we launched the platform, to start with, in fact, I was worried when this whole thing started, and I said, what's going to happen? Will people talk about all kinds of nonsense, or how it will go. But it's self-regulating, because whenever somebody comes on the platform, there are other people who are talking positively about it, negatively about it, and it kind of builds up. The first couple of days, you saw that people talk about small chit-chats, about how is this movie, how is this, how is that, etc. But pretty soon, they got into pretty serious stuff. And the kind of stuff that gets discussed, a lot of work gets done, a lot of technical problems get solved, and there are little tools which make it much more powerful. But also, they talk about serious themes. So this is a fantastic tool. And my dream is to have everyone very actively engaged on it. Every single day, at least 50,000 people are on it, putting stuff and reading stuff and so on and so forth. And it's gaining momentum. My entire leadership team is there. Initially, I thought that me and my next level people will find it very hard, because we are not natural to this way of communication, because we still lived in the fax age. I remember the first time I bought a computer in the company, to get the approval, I need to write a handwritten note and fax it. Okay, so email was not there, and I lived the first 15 years without a mobile phone, so I carried around a pager, So for us, it's a little bit of learning, right? So, but actually what I am very gratified today is that the level of engagement is almost equal between the X and Y. So everybody is on the platform now, and everybody is communicating, and it's building a great momentum. And we're getting huge ideas coming in, and sometimes we even put a problem, and then one of our customers and then said, can you guys get some ideas from your team? Then we just put the problem, there was a debate, and finally we could distill 10 ideas, and so that's how I'm. So for me, leadership in this angle, in the employee angle, is about enabling this idea of flow, this many-to-many communication. Participate equally as one among them, not try and kill the whole hierarchy.
Let me add.
And there is one more thing I'm doing, which is what I call as this whole work thing. The concept of work, if you really sit back and think about, it's about a hierarchy, right? At some point in time in the past, people wanted to do something, and they will write a memo, and it will go to the manager will try to approve it. The manager will not have enough data, so may put a note on it, it will go to the next level. Then it will go to the next level, until it reached a level where someone had visibility to all the data that is needed in order to approve it. So over a period of time, as things became complex, levels increased. And this is how workflows became complex. And with the technology coming in, with the internet, all we did was digitize these workflows. So if it was going to 10 people, it still went to the 10 people. Previously, there was a peon who would take it from this desk to the other desk to the other desk. So it may end up in the right desk after 3 days or 1 week, depending upon how bureaucratic the company is. When we digitized it, it happened in the same day, provided people cleared it. But now, I really feel workflows are to be killed, because the data is real time. So go back to my initial statement. You can look down, and then you can see everything. All the data is available. So anyone who has to make a decision can make a decision at the point at which the work arises. It could be simple approvals, complex approvals, doesn't matter. All the data is available. So what we need is, we need a trusted environment where we know we have the employees and the people who we work with, and we trust everyone to do the right thing, provided the right data is there. So as long as your decision-making process is completely data-driven, I don't think the work should flow. So work should get done. So we are now on a path to implement this whole concept. So we are now discussing what are the workflows in the company which we should reimagine, and then try and get rid of the workflows. Can the work get done? That's what we're trying to do.
I wanted to add your, Chandra, we just met this afternoon. He just got off a flight, but even moments of discussion, I can find the symbiosis and the kinds of things and the way we think.
I had predicted this, by the way.
This whole concept of your mantra of personal development, of an individual wanting to reach their potential. I can go around, we're only 10% of our business in the US, we're everywhere else, but no matter where we go, we find the same kind of thing. It's at the core of our business and the core of leadership. And as we do studies around the world, and we look at what are particularly women looking for, she wants a feeling of self-worth. She wants, and that's where I get down to this whole subject of complexity. One of the comments this morning, John was talking about the learning of the organization. If you put enough attention to learning of that organization, and at the same time empowerment, you push that decision right down to people who can really make a decision. And it is interesting. We did a study last year. The Global Fairness Initiative did it for us in Mexico. And we just finished one in Indonesia. We have about 400,000 women in Mexico, 200,000 in Indonesia. And independently, we wanted to find out, what does this engagement with us mean to her? These were 1-hour interviews. Interesting. First on the list, and this was 12,000 miles from one to the other, first on the list was her self-image changed. I went from feeling, I'm either not good enough or just okay, to I feel good about myself by having an engagement in it. Secondly, she went from lower class to middle class. Third, her relationships with her family, kids started looking up to her, had a lot to do with her self-image. In a world where 1 out of 3 women is involved in abuse, he went from abusive to appreciation to, oh my God, even helping her. And her last thing that came out, both countries, she wanted to give back. I mean, it's almost the Gandhi thing, be the change you wish to see in the world. And we find it, whether we're talking to millennials, Gen Y, it's real and it's out there, and I can see it in 60-year-olds, and I can see it in 26-year-olds, and it's really positive.
Absolutely. Terrific.
It's extraordinary listening to both of you, actually, because what you sort of realize, and I guess everybody who's here appreciates it, is that both of you, and I happen to know Chandra better than I know you, Rick, have these extraordinary jobs with these incredible complexities, with, in your case, millions of people. And yet you still have kept a very strong sense of yourself and your own purpose and what it is you believe. And I wanted just to make a comment about that, and then I wanted to invite our other panelists up, which is, you know, all of us have actually been involved in the World Economic Forum, and I, as you know, last year led the Council on Leadership, and the whole conversation at the WEF was about authenticity. And I do sort of wonder that as the world becomes more complex, I think authentic leadership becomes more and more important. And I see how each of you, I mean, Chandra hasn't mentioned it yet, but I hear that you run Chandra.
Yes, I do. I do.
And that focus on...
We have a big running club in the company.
Yeah.
I started running, and now we have a program called Fit for Life, and we have thousands of people running. So we run for different causes in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So because we are a young company, so we find ways and means by which we connect people.
Yeah.
We bring our teams together, people together, both in the digital platform and also in the physical platform. And it kind of builds values. At the end of the day, if you have some beliefs and values, then you just can't do it just by speaking.
Yeah.
You need symbolic actions, and you've got to be committed to it.
Yeah.
So I can talk a lot about it. Yeah.
Do you know, one of the things that on authentic leadership, that what I've found, we very rarely, for people that go through, work at our headquarters or most of our regional offices, ever recruit past the age of 35, because nobody leaves us. They come in. We've developed what we believe is a wonderful, simplistic model. Talk about complexity of how do you develop a leadership person. And we break it down to 4 things. Number 1, we teach them to be an operator. Either they go up through one functional area, finance, et cetera, but if they're going to go general management, they get their ticket punched, et cetera, and in others. Number two, they have to have what we call ILS, inspirational leadership skills. Now, that doesn't mean they're charismatic as we've misunderstood the word charisma and that they're a showwoman or a showman. No, the Greeks talked about charisma was the divine gift to bring devotion from other people. So some of the most charismatic people I know are very, very quiet. So we teach them that. Thirdly, they have to have intellectual curiosity. They've got to want to see around corners. And last, seasoning. Now, there's an issue in the US. I've rarely met a 27-year-old who didn't think they were ready to be the CEO, but I've had 40-year-olds in Europe who I wanted to promote to be a country president, and they've come back and say, I don't think I'm ready yet. Can I get another year? I mean, the seasoning piece. So we've learned to even distill this down to a model that works for our business, and people then pass it on, along with this mantra of it's all about showing people how to grow from the person they are today to the person they could become.
Well, thank you so much for those insights. And I'm just going to ask our other two panelists.